One of the common obstacles that I see in my clients that prevent them from being able to reach their health goals is anxiety and overwhelm, which then leads to a lack of self-care. One of the common triggers for this is having family members who are sick or struggling. What I want to help show you today is that even when we're going through these stressors, we can stay in a grounded and balanced place where we don't get anxious and overwhelmed. And therefore we can continue to even make progress on our own health while helping others. And I know you can do this because I've done it myself. I'm going to share a little bit from my heart today on some lessons that I have learned from walking with my dad through his cancer. The first lesson that I have had reinforced over and over and over again through my dad's 6 years of dealing with stage 4 cancer has been how to deal with worry. It sounds kind of silly, but I didn't know how to deal with worry because I just didn't really worry beforehand. I don't have any kids and I take care of my own health. I just didn't really have a lot to worry about in my life, and I'm not that kind of person who's predisposed to it. But when I started hearing all the different issues that he could be having and the different outcomes that could be the case of his medical treatments, I started to worry, and I had to figure out, what do I do with this? Because I know it's not healthy for us. One of the ways that I learned to respond in a more healthy way to worry is to let go of forecasting. We tend to, have a thought in our head and then think, okay, well, if that happens, then this might happen, and then this might happen, which would lead to this, and then how do I deal with that, right? We try to make a forecast on what's gonna happen as if we could actually do something about it or be in any control. As soon as I saw my brain doing that, as soon as I saw, okay, this is not happening and it's not about to happen, I'm not making a plan for it to happen, I had to let that be a trigger for my brain to let go of those thoughts. It can be easier to let go when you have some spirituality. So for myself, I'm a Christian, and I just imagine God taking that thought for me. And He's got it. He already knows all these different things that are going to happen. He has a lot more ability to influence the outcome of events than I do. And I would try to surrender to who I know is really in control, since I know I'm not in control. So when you have a thought about maybe your kid or your family member or your neighbor that you help to care for about what could happen to them, that's an alarm that should go off in your mind that says, okay, I'm forecasting. This is the future that I'm not in control of. It's not going to lead me to anywhere. And let go of that thought. But then what do? Because you can't have an empty brain. You have to replace that thought with something else. And that's when you redirect to the present moment. Redirect to the moment that you're in and live in this moment. What is actually happening with that person right now? Are they hospitalized? Are they about to pass away? Are they having a terrible reaction to new medication? No, they're probably fine right now. They're doing okay, making it through right now. Focus on that. Let your brain, when you're thinking about this situation that's stressful, think about what's actually happening in the current moment. And when you do that, think about what you're grateful for about the current moment. Say some things in your head to yourself about your gratitude. That you're grateful that they have been able to do some treatments at home. You're grateful that your kid has been able to find a great therapist. You're grateful that your parent was able to find a good long-term care place to live, or that another family member is helping you out with caring for them. There's probably a lot of things that you can be grateful for, even something as simple as they answered the phone when I called yesterday. The second lesson that I've learned from his cancer experience has been how to set better boundaries. Let me clarify upfront that boundaries are not something that you tell someone else that they can't do. Boundaries are not, don't call me after 6 p.m. or don't expect me to be at this place. Boundaries are internal. They're what you've decided you're not going to do. You can communicate your boundaries to someone else. I'm not going to answer the phone after 6 p.m. That's your own internal boundary rather than don't call me after 6 p.m. That's a boundary that you're trying to set on someone else. So remember that you can't control other people's outcomes or their behaviors or what they do. You can just control yourself. So decide for yourself what your boundaries need to be in order to both love and care for someone while also loving and caring for yourself and trying to keep those things balanced. To give you some examples, I learned that a boundary for myself was that I needed to kind of determine which times I was going to be available and how often. In the beginning, I wanted it to be hours every day. I wanted to talk through everything he's experiencing and feeling, research everything that I could, find out everything about medications and alternative treatments and services and people who could drive him and counseling. I mean, everything that you can think of. I wanted to research it all and figure out what I was going to do to help him. But I had to really set aside times and say, okay, I can do 1, maybe 2 phone calls per week. I can do a weekday and a weekend. But calling and talking every weekday wasn't going to work with all the other things that I had going on in my life. I also had to think about, with the research, okay, maybe I'm only going to research on the weekends, not the weekdays. And I need to limit that to maybe 1 hour. What can I get? What answers can I find within this 1 hour and not just let it be that's something that I do forever? My husband's really good about that. When I say, all right, I need to figure this out for him. And then he's like, okay, well, how much time are you going to spend on that? He helps me to be more intentional about setting that boundary for myself. Another boundary that I needed was how involved I got, because you can really only get as involved as the person is willing or able to respond to. You want to keep balance in that relationship and not take over it and lead to some dependency on you, right? So if you're going to try to help this person, this family or a friend or a loved one, you also need to know how much are they willing to be helped? How can they respond to what you're doing? Do they have the energy, the interest, the ability or skills to take advantage of what you're thinking about doing for them? So you really want to meet them where they're at. You want to match their energy. If they're not as interested in helping themselves naturally, then you might not want to spend a lot of time on all the natural treatments that could help them or improve them. If they're not as interested in leaving their house, then you don't really need to be looking up services for them to go to in order to improve. So make sure that you're really customizing how much effort you're putting into helping them based on how much they want to be helped and how they can respond to anything that you offer them. A final example of a boundary that you can set is not just limiting the things that you're going to add, but make sure you don't give up too much. If the person that you're trying to help has things at times where you're already committed, you might set a boundary that says, I'm not going to move those things. And you have to really set that for yourself, because if you have to make an in-the-moment decision, you're probably going to let go of whatever it is that you need to do. You might decide, okay, I'm not going to call off work, or I'm only going to call off max of 1 or 2 hours. Or you might decide I'm going to continue working on my class that I'm doing for myself, and I can't help them during any of my class hours. So make sure you set up boundaries around the stuff that you already have on your schedule or structured into your life that's important. Maybe, you normally work out 5 times per week, but you say, I'm only going to move 1 workout per week if something's happening during a workout time, because I really need that time for myself. So know what is important to you, and then set up a boundary around that to make sure that you can still engage in that. It's not that you're not helping someone, or because you don't show up at their doctor's appointment because you have work at that time doesn't mean that you don't love them. It means that you are loving them in the best way that you can while also loving yourself. The third lesson from watching my dad struggle has been how to put things into perspective. I feel like I can better respond to stressors because I put them into context of what really matters in my life and what's going to be important in the end. When something negative happens to me, I might not get as stressed, but let me just share real quick. This does not mean that you should just ignore what you're feeling because there's much worse things out there. It is really important to feel your feels, but sometimes we can exaggerate how stressful something is and get caught up in the moments. And so I want to help you to see that there's some other things that matter in your life, probably a lot more than the stressor that you're experiencing. And so when you have that negative feeling, feel it and then move right through it because you're putting it in context with your life. For example, I recently injured my knee a few months ago. I sprained my MCL and my knee wasn't able to really bend and I wasn't able to put a lot of pressure on it. This was very stressful to me because I like to work out and I have a certain workout routine that I like. And I wasn't able to do those things while I had to rest my knee for 4 to maybe 8 weeks. At first, I started to get really stressed out about that. But then I had talked to my dad and then I really put my own injury in context with how many things I can do with my body and seeing how many that my dad couldn't do. I was like, okay, really? I can adjust. I can switch this. I can be upset that I injured my knee and I can be sad that I can't do my workout, but then I can just move right on and do other things with my body and still live my life and have a great day. So I did not let it ruin my day, whereas I might have done that before. I've also changed my perspective in how I relate to others. I'm not a particularly bitter person, but people do things that are upsetting and you kind of want to hold on to it until they forgive, right? You also have a lot of things going on in your life and might not always have the time to be super loving towards others. My perspective has also changed in my relationships. I'm not like a particularly bitter person or unloving person, but I just feel that I'm a lot more forgiving and loving than I used to be. I think about how I don't really know how much time I have left with each person that I talk to. You don't really know how long someone's going to be around. Rather than waiting for someone to own up to their mistakes or ask for forgiveness or show that they understand how they've hurt me or what they've done wrong, I now just kind of forgive people more automatically because my perspective has changed and I think, what if I can't talk to this person again? I want to be on the best terms that I can be with someone, and in the grand scheme of things, this way that they hurt me or something that they do that I don't appreciate isn't that big of a deal. I could definitely bring it up, I would definitely want to communicate and share how I feel, but I'm not going to let it hold me back in my relationships because I just want to maximize the quality time that I get with those that I love. Hopefully, when you're dealing with a stressful situation that's making it hard for you to take care of your health, you can remember these 3 lessons: how to let go of anxiety and come to the present moment with gratitude, how to set good internal boundaries for yourself, and how to change your perspective so that life is less stressful. And I don't want to give off the impression, because I know that's what I'm doing, that I was just looking at these last 6 years of my dad's stage 4 cancer as this wonderful growth opportunity and learning all these wonderful lessons. They sucked. There's been a lot of hard times, and learning these lessons was also very hard. My life did not look good. I was not always healthy as I was trying to figure out how to help him and also keep myself healthy. So please also realize that even though you now know these lessons and you may try applying them, that you're still going to do things that are not going to be good for you and it's still going to be stressful at times. If you have found this to be encouraging, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that you know when we put out another video. And I would also love to hear from you in the comment section what you connected with. What do you think is going to help you with the stressful situations that you're dealing with? Or if you have a lesson that I didn't touch on today. So here's to being balanced and grounded. Talk to you soon.